merciful Savior, precious Redeemer and friend, who would have thought that Lamb could rescue the souls of man? Oh, you rescue the souls of man. Counselor, Comforter, Keeper, Spirit we long to embrace. You offer hope when our hearts have hopelessly lost our way. Oh, we've hopelessly lost the way. You are the one that we praise. You are the one we adore. You give the healing and grace our hearts always hunger for. Oh, our hearts always hunger for. Almighty, infinite Father, faithfully loving you. Here in our weakness you find us, falling before your throne. Oh, we're falling before your throne. You are the one that we praise. You are the one we adore. You give the healing and grace our hearts always hunger for. Oh, our hearts always hunger for. You are the one that we praise. You are the one we adore. You give the healing and grace our hearts always hunger for. Oh, our hearts always hunger for. We pray for blessings. We pray for peace. Comfort for family. Protection while we sleep. We pray for healing. For prosperity. We pray for your mighty hand to ease our suffering, and all the while you hear each spoken need. Yet love is way too much to give us lesser things. 'Cause what if your blessings come through raindrops? What if your healing comes through tears? What if 1,000 sleepless nights are what it takes to know you're near? What if trials of this life are your mercy? mercies in disguise. We pray for wisdom, your voice to hear. We cry in anger when we cannot feel you near. We doubt your goodness, we doubt your love, as if every promise from your word is not enough. And all the while you hear each desperate plea and long that we'd have faith to believe. 'Cause what if your blessings come through raindrops? What if your healing comes through tears? What if 1,000 sleepless nights are what it takes to know you're near? What if trials of this life are your mercies in disguise? When friends betray us, when darkness seems to win, we know that pain reminds this heart that this is not our home. What if your blessings come through raindrop? What if your healing comes through tears? What if 1,000 sleepless nights are what it takes to know you're near? What if my greatest disappointments or the aching of this life is a revealing of a great thirst this world can't satisfy? What if trials of this life, the rain, the storms, the hardest nights, are your mercies in disguise? Where this path leads, I do not know, with all its twists and turns, but I've discovered in the unknown lessons I must learn, and that the darkness walked with Jesus is as precious as the light. Found I come to love him better as I walk by faith and not by sight. So I will follow where you lead me. I will seek to know your will, and I'll pursue you with my whole heart, your desires to fulfill. And I will trust that you are good, though sometimes I cannot see the blessing through the tears. On this path you're leading me, the blessing through the tears. On this path you're leading me. And in the valley dark with shadows, where the path becomes unclear, and I'm struggling with the feeling that you're no longer near, I will desires to fulfill, and I will trust that you are good, even when I cannot see the blessing through the tears. On this path you're leading me, the blessing through the tears. On this path you're leading me, 'cause it's the paths I once have chosen, where you proved your love for me. The ones that were so painful have become my greatest blessings, 'cause you always have a blessing, even in the tears. So Lord, I'll follow where you lead me. I will seek to know your will, and I'll pursue you with my whole heart, your desires to fulfill, and I will trust that you are good, and that someday I will see all the blessings in these tears, and I wouldn't change a thing, 'cause there are blessings in the tears. Yes, there are blessings in the tears for all who follow faithfully.
Savior say, thy strength indeed is small. Child of weakness, watch and pray. Find in me thine all. Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow.
And when before the throne I stand, in him complete, I'll lay my trophies down, oh, down at Jesus' feet.
Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow. I've been washed in the blood, I've been washed in the blood.
Yeah.
Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me.
Who's this group?
Yes, Jesus loves me. Oh, yes, Jesus loves me.
Have a seat. Oh, okay.
Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow. He washed it white as
Okay. Did you have a good lunch? Yeah? Barely breathe. Okay. What's that? Plates? Oh, okay.
Only thing was the screen.
Get a smaller plate.
Plates.
They say
No,
it helps.
Thank you so much. That food was delicious. Thank you to everyone who contributed. So
Yeah.
it was great.
Yeah, thank you very, very much. And please feel welcome to come forward. You can come forward. You know, if you have a Pentecostal group, they all fill up from the front going back. If you have an Adventist group, they go from the back to the front. Usually the front rows are fewer. You must be Pentecostal ladies in the front here. Yeah? Oh, you're Catholic. Yeah. I was English Catholic. I was Anglican. Yeah, when I was younger. Yeah. French Catholic. Okay. You speak French? French Canadian? No? Canadian. Okay. Okay. So, are we going to start now? Yes. Okay. Let's pray. Father in heaven, thank you for bringing us here. Thank you for all that we can learn. That we are on a track to learning for eternity, and we thank you that you are just so awesome. You are larger than we can imagine, and your love is deeper than any ocean. And our love is so small, like a trickle compared to your vast ocean of love. And we ask you to fill our hearts with your love and your peace and your joy, that today we may just be filled this Sabbath day and be able to gush over and splash your love onto others. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you. So we've got a different, there you go. Daryl takes care of the technology, but he takes care of so many things. He's a very talented guy, isn't he? Yes. Yeah, when I first met Daryl, I couldn't believe how energetic he was. I thought he must be on some kind of energy drink or something. And then I got to know him, and I realized he wasn't on any of that. He was just on the Holy Spirit. You know, he's just so filled with life and joy. And I was a pastor at the time, a little younger. Daryl was a little younger too, and he was a Bible worker. And if I just told Daryl, I can't attend to this person, but please, and we'd have him in the baptismal real soon. Yeah. So Daryl's really good at that.
Truth be told, Mike Lennon was my mentor.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. No, I felt the other way around. I felt he was my mentor. I mean, I've learned so much from Daryl, and very good friends, like real soulmates.
And we had two daughters, and Daryl and Lise have two boys.
Yeah.
And they were very close in age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Aaron and Joanne were good friends when they were little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I showed the pictures that Joanne and McLean, probably be a bit embarrassing, because Daniel and McLean together,
Yeah.
inseparable, and Aaron and Joanne.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Separate ways.
When they were little, they just played and played and played. And I think
Too bad we can't arrange marriages.
I can't say I didn't think about that.
I was thinking of the same thing. Okay, what's that?
Are you originally from Redmond?
No. I was born in Sudbury, Ontario, and then my mother put us all in a taxi and took us to the train when I was 3 years old. It was myself and my three brothers. And left my dad. My dad was in love with the bottle. And my mom, she fought the demons of depression her whole life. And unfortunately, eventually succumbed to suicide. But I was in an orphanage from when I was 3 until I was 16 in Saskatchewan, in Indian Head, Saskatchewan. So this kind of cold I'm used to. But the good thing about the orphanage was, other than the fact that they had It Is Written on television, that was one of the few programs we could watch, and it was always on before Disney, right? And so we'd watch that, and then we'd watch Disney, they did then, but no, that orphanage, it was called the Orange Home, and we were the Lemon Brothers. We went to the Orange Home, and it was in a little town called Indian Head, Saskatchewan.
Oh, look there.
And, there you go. So that's Aaron and our daughter Joanne. Yeah. Isn't that cool? Yeah. Oh, and they played together. And there's McLean and Daniel. Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously
Yeah. Isn't that cool? How they grow up quickly.
Oh, too quickly.
Yeah. Cool. So, yeah, no, and then the one good thing about the orphanage, apart from watching it as written, is that it had a farm. So we would have to get up, and, I mean, my job was to milk the cows, to collect the eggs, and we also did, harvesting and all that. Because growing up on a farm is good for you. It's really good for you. Even though I wasn't with my parents, the growing up on a farm was the good part, We learned how to work. In fact, I met, when I was working at Fountain View, we worked at Fountain View for 12 years, and some of the greatest people, I mean, we had leaders' kids going to school there, really leaders' kids. You had General Conference presidents' kids. We had, multi-million billionaires send their kids there, even though it's not a elite school, but we had some really good kids there. And some of those guys, one of them, he travels around in his own private jet everywhere. And he said to me, he owns multiple companies. He said, when I look at a resume, I'm usually hiring engineers. That's usually what I'm looking for. And he says, I look, first of all, do they have the university degree? And the second thing is, did they live on or ever work on a farm? And he said, if they have those two qualifications, they get hired. Yeah. So. Excuse me?
Does he travel to Cuba?
To Cuba.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't have friends with benefits. All I do, they're friends, but they don't share any of their money with me, okay? And they don't even give to it as written, so don't worry about that. I mean, they're just... That's right, yeah. Exactly. No, they're good people. I mean, some of these guys, we're exercise people. So some of them, we run, and they love to run, One of our friends, he says his best ideas come when he runs,
When he hits the 5 to 8K mark.
Yeah.
So,
then he has these brilliant ideas that come to him,
yeah.
and he puts them into action, and he's done quite well for himself.
And he said they come. And then we were speaking to another friend and just sharing. We said, this friend, he's a businessman, entrepreneur, and he said when he runs, he does running. When he hits between the 5 and 8K mark, then he gets, all these brilliant ideas. And so then our friend started laughing. He said, maybe that's what I'm doing wrong because I only do 5Ks and then I stop.
I stop after 5K.
I stop at 5.
So.
Maybe I should do 3 more.
So let's look at this. This is Aldous Huxley. He said, man has an almost infinite appetite for distractions. Isn't it true? He wasn't the first one to say it. Ecclesiastes say, the eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. Right? And that was Solomon, way before Aldous Huxley. And, Jesus had a solution to this problem. And here was his solution. If your right eye causes you to sin, pluck it out and cast it away from you. So people have taken that literally and have actually cut out their eye. Is that what Jesus was saying? No, because you can still sin with your other eye. You can sin with no eyes. You can sin with no hands. So he obviously was not saying that physically, right? But people have taken it literally. So what was he saying? This is from Thoughts on the Mount of Blessing. She says, the surrender of the will is represented as plucking out the eye or cutting off the hand. Often it seems to us that to surrender the will to God is to consent to go through life maimed or crippled. And sometimes that's what it's like. For you to give up something that you cherish, if ever you've been addicted to something. Addiction is a slow process of suicide by pleasure. Okay? And as you do this, you are, unfortunately, if you've ever been addicted to something, it's not pleasurable eventually. You're in bondage. And you're in this, and you want to get rid of it. It's not even pleasurable anymore. And what happens when you come to Jesus is the things that you used to love, you now hate. You ever notice that? And the thing you used to hate, you now love. and that is Jesus and his love. And when you love Jesus, nothing can replace that, right? There's nothing better than that. So we think of so many times in the Bible, you think of people who struggled, right? Who were struggling with distractions. Did David struggle with distraction? And he fell to Bathsheba, right? Solomon, he was preoccupied with his abundance. He was distracted. Peter was distracted on the water. He took his eyes off of Jesus. Martha was distracted because, what did she do?
Martha was so focused on her chores and doing everything and organizing and cooking and cleaning and,
And the soldiers, they were distracted at the cross because they were gambling. They didn't realize what they were doing. So here's a solution.
Solution, set your mind on things above. So Colossians 3:2, set your mind and keep focus habitually on the things above, the heavenly things, not on things that are on the earth, which have only temporal value.
Yeah, that's the Amplified Version. Isn't that beautiful? So it's the continuous. It's day by day. And you choose that. You choose it. And there will be times when even you're innocently looking at your screen and something will come across the screen and you're like, whoa, right? And you just close that down right away. And you just say, Lord, take it away. And even if you struggle with addiction, you want to look at it, you say, Lord, help me, and take that away. And he can even replace the things you used to love with the love of Jesus. And now you don't like those things anymore. Here's the question. When our kids were younger, they would say, well, what's wrong with that, right? And she says, whenever they ever say, what's wrong with that, always say to them, something better, right? Something better is the law of all true living. Whatever Christ asks us to renounce, he often, in its stead, what does he give us? He offers us something better. Often the youth cherish objects, pursuits, and pleasures that do not appear to be evil, but that fall short of the highest good. Let them be directed to something better than display, ambition, or self-indulgence. So is there something better? Right? That's it. Not no, but is there something better? No? Okay, let's do that. Right? And if there is something, let's choose the best. Let's do the best because we have limited time. Remember, we talked about it this morning. You got the cost, right? What is it? Opportunity cost, right? And so every yes is 1,000 no's, right? So once you say yes to something, you're saying no to 1,000 other things. And so you have to choose what you are going to say yes to. So the 4 foundational harms.
What did we say they were? What was the first one?
Went through this morning.
Social.
Yes.
Social deprivation.
Social deprivation.
And the second one was sleep deprivation.
Yes.
And then the third one is attention fragmentation.
And addiction. I don't know if we'll get it able. We don't have enough time to cover the addiction part of it. It's a huge part of it, but we'll do our best with this afternoon. So attention fragmentation. So, go ahead.
By constitutional amendment, nobody is allowed to be smarter than anyone else.
So this is a book called Harrison Bergeron, and it was written by Kurt Vonnegut in 1961. Very interesting story. It was a short story about this person called Harrison Bergeron, and it's set in a ultra-egalitarian future America, where by constitutional amendment, nobody is allowed to be smarter than anyone else. No one is to be better looking. No one is to be better, more attractive, more physically attractive, more physically stronger, or able or capable than anyone else. Egalitarian. So the handicapper general in the story is the government official who their task they have to do this, they have to enforce equality of abilities and outcomes amongst the whole population. Sounds weird, doesn't it? So anyone with a high IQ is required to wear an earpiece. And at times, it buzzes very loudly, actually every 20 seconds. So, and it's with a variety of different noises designed to interrupt sustained thinking, thereby bringing the person down to functional intelligence. In other words, every citizen becomes an average citizen. Because what are they doing? They're dumbing us down by doing what? By distracting us. So if you're high, and this is very interesting. I read a book called Stolen Focus, is one of the ones that I recommended here, and it was with Johan Hari, and he was interviewing professors, and he was saying that with these professors, their level of concentration is going down. The professors at universities, they can't concentrate, right? They can't think clearly anymore. And so we're having a whole society dumbed down by what? By constant notifications. Ding, ding, ding. You got a little earpiece. Ding, 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 right? Quick noise. So this is not a fiction. This is reality. It's a world that we're living in. Interesting book.
It's interesting how they use those, like the notifications, you know. It's like getting notifications, these buzzing that happened, you know, for 20 seconds or longer at a time. And it wasn't all the time, but it was every now and then that they would have this buzz. And anyone who had a high IQ had to wear these earpieces, right? So because they knew they would distract them and throw them off. So, terrible.
So the average number of notifications on young people's phones from the top social and communication apps amounts to 192 alerts per day. That's the average.
According to one study, the average teen who now gets only 7 hours of sleep per night, therefore gets about 11 notifications per waking hour, or 1 every 5 minutes, and that's just for the apps that are about communication. Right?
So at one of it was in the Maritimes actually, someone gave me their phone and they said, can you take a picture of our family? So I said, sure. I couldn't even get the camera open because there were so many notifications coming on his phone. You know, the notification comes on and then I go swipe it up, next one, next one, next one. I can't even get the camera open, right? Because it's just so many apps are coming and I'm like, can you open your camera? Because I can't get your phone to work. There's too many notifications. What does that do to you when it's constantly buzzing in your pocket? And he's at church, right? I mean, and that's working throughout the day. So some teens receive an average of 1 interruption every minute. Okay? So every app is like an off-ramp. So, you know, every notification is kind of like a Las Vegas sign that says it's just calling your attention. Turn the wheel, right? Come over here. And what do? Just tap. You just tap. And I'll tell you about someone or about someone, what someone said about you, right? And then once you find out what they said about you, oh, they liked your picture, right? Then that gives you a bit of what they call a dopamine hit. Or if they didn't like it, that's also sucks you into it. Because now it's like, well, why, you know? And so they've actually disabled the dislike button because it really has caused a lot of mental anguish and bullying online. But they could still say things and comments that are really harassing to people. So here's the thing. Kids can't get away from bullying anymore, even in their own bedroom. It's happening right where they live.
And no matter how hard it is for an adult to stay committed to one mental road, it is far harder for an adolescent. Why? An adolescent who has an immature frontal cortex and therefore limited ability to say no to off-ramps. Because their frontal lobe hasn't fully developed yet.
That's right. And your prefrontal cortex is really what? It's your executive function. And so if you don't have that and it's not developing, then you can't say no. And it's very hard to say no. Excuse me.
So capturing the child or teen's attention with immediately exciting sensorial stimuli is the goal of the app designers, and they are very good at what they do.
I mean,
Very good.
it's very intentional. These things aren't designed by someone just randomly doing it or some teenager. No, these are highly intelligent people. The people who are designing our social media stuff isn't us. All we do is just stand in front of the camera and talk. But how it gets transmitted to people is they have to read the algorithms, and they have to, it's really science. And they have to figure out how to get more eyeballs to watch our stuff. That's all they're looking for. They're looking for eyeballs. They want people's attention. And the more eyeballs you can get, the more your product is going to sell. We're not selling anything, but we're trying to get across good messages. It's harder to sell good messages than bad ones, by the way. Okay.
So this never-ending stream of interruptions, this constant fragmentation of attention, takes the toll on the adolescent's ability to think, and may even leave permanent marks in their rapid configuring brains. Many studies found that students with access to their phones use them in class and pay far less attention to their teachers. And this is the problem. You know, Alberta, I think basically all the provinces now brought in a new
Classroom-free
classroom-free
phone.
Classroom-free phones.
Phone, yeah.
So the kids aren't
Phone.
allowed to take their phones into the classroom.
Phone-free,
Right?
yeah.
So it's phone-free classrooms.
Yes.
But here's the problem. They have found that that is not good.
It's not helpful.
Because if they have the phones, whether it will be in their backpacks or in their jacket pockets or in their back pockets, they are still getting the notifications with that vibration. Right? So it's still distracting them. And they're still thinking about that. I wonder who that was. I wonder what that was. And then some of them will, in a way, be so addicted that they will take their phone out and look at it. When the teacher's not looking, the teacher can't pay attention to everyone, right? And then, of course, if they leave the classroom, what is the first thing they do when they go out by the door?
As soon as the bell rings,
As soon as the bell rings, they
take
on
out
their
phone.
phones. So they're on their phones in between classrooms. They're in their phones on the lunch period. So no one is talking. There's no connections. There's no community. Everyone is stuck on their phones. They found now in this anxious generation that they're bringing into schools a new policy that is working, and it's called phone-free schools.
Schools, not classrooms.
Right? Not classrooms, schools.
Yeah.
So what happens is when the kids get to school in the morning, they have a locker. And they put their phones in that locker. And their phones stay there the whole day.
Whole school day.
The whole school day until they leave in the afternoon. And then they go and get their phones again. Right? And the difference with that, with having phone-free schools, has been phenomenal. Because now teachers are walking past the lunchroom and they are seeing kids, they are hearing kids laughing and talking and communicating with each other and playing together on the playgrounds and doing stuff because they're not allowed to have their phones. It's a phone-free school. And that is much better because they say if it's just classroom free, you may as well not have that policy anyway because it doesn't work, right?
Yeah. So it still has the problem, right? Yes. Go ahead.
I just sent you a text message of a news article I got yesterday.
Yeah.
Florida school district banned cell phones, and the results have been wild.
That's awesome.
Yes.
So
That's
in
amazing.
Colorado, there was the school with the highest bullying, the highest suicide rate, the lowest grades, and he was a young guy, he became principal, and he banned cell phones from the whole school. He also did another thing. He put in very, what you might call dangerous playgrounds. He allowed them to have their bikes and ride them in the school grounds. He set up a whole thing for ramps and things like that. Guess what? The bullying went down. The grades went up. The achievements went up. The teenage pregnancy went down. The suicide rate went down. And depression and anxiety went down. Why? Because now kids could be kids and go outside and have fun doing dangerous things. It's a good thing. We're the scared ones, but they're wanting to explore their world. So people can't really multitask. All we can do is shift attention back and forth between tasks while wasting a lot of it on each shift. That's the problem, right? So we think we're multitasking. But even when students don't check their phones, the mere presence of a phone damages their ability to think. So they've done all these tests where they put just a phone on the desk, and kids are taking a test. And their grades on those tests, just by the presence of a phone, right? Nothing, the phone is turned off, but just having that presence of a phone, their grades go down by 20% on average, just by having it there. So it does disrupt their thinking. And these aren't small studies. These are huge studies, and they're seeing this over and over again. So, go ahead.
So the Canadian Pediatric Society recommends no screens of any kind for a child under 2 years of age, and strict limitations on older children. They do say, however, that the only screens for kids under the age of 2 to have is like FaceTime.
With someone you know.
With interaction with real people, with someone that you know.
Yes. Yeah.
So like René is doing, with her family.
Yeah.
And we're able to do with our grandsons, have...
And our daughters.
Yeah.
So in the first 6 to 7 years, the child's brain is expecting to wire up in 3-dimensional, right? This is important because you're looking at a flat screen here, which is only 2-dimensional, 5 senses world of people and things. So if it's not wiring up that way, it's not wiring up in a healthy way. So screen time for younger children is not recommended apart from video chatting with caring adults, as René said. So this is Jean Twangy, Dr. Jean Twangy in iGen. She says screen time is affecting the mental health of teens even more than it is younger children. Now, this one I thought was very fascinating. This is Dr. Victoria Dunkley and her findings on electronic media and screens. And her book is called Reset Your Child's Brain.
She said the immediate effect of electronic media on the brain is that it overstimulates and overstresses and overloads the brain, which causes the frontal lobe to shut down and the child and teen become dysregulated. Right? There's so much overstimulation, so much color, so much movement, so much activity, so that when kids are looking at their phones, and you've got all this stimulation with the different colors and the lights and all of this stuff, how can we even compare that or compete with that if you go outside with nature and you see a piece of grass or a blade with a ladybug?
Yep.
Or even a flower, right? We can't, it's two totally different things, and so this overstimulating the overstimulus that they receive and the overstressing makes them dysregulated.
So,
right? So they become agitated and have meltdowns,
So she's a pediatric psychiatrist. So she was used to giving medication to solve this dysregulation, sleep disorders. And she said, what's happening with screens? And so she started to explore this area, and she started to find these things out. In the short term, this affects mood, cognition, and behavior. In the long term, the concerns become developmental. And that means that it affects the child's and the teen's potential for developing relationships, the quality of those relationships, and how far they go in school and how successful they are in their career. That's huge. Okay? So it's handicapping them for life. This, I thought, was one of the most amazing findings, that she said by doing this, she could reduce any kind of intervention with medication. And here's what she found. After removing the child and teens from all electronic media for 4 weeks, 1 month, 80% of ADHD, bipolar illness, autism, sleep disorders, mood swings, difficulties focusing, and behavioral problems completely disappeared. 80%. And this is solid science, solid findings, okay? And that's really, really helpful. And then there's the Danish study, the Denmark study, where teens and young adults went off social media for 1 week. And what did they find after 1 week? 36% drop in loneliness, 33% drop in depression, and 36% drop in anxiety. Just after 1 week. That's pretty serious, right? Okay.
Of social media.
Off social media, okay. So this is the development of the frontal lobe. So the brain develops throughout childhood with an acceleration of change during puberty.
One of the main skills that adolescents are expected to develop as they advance through middle school and high school is executive function, which refers to the child's growing ability to make plans and then do the things necessary to execute those plans.
Mm-hmm. So you can see just by the various stages of development of the brain that the frontal lobe is the one that's last to completely develop, the way it should. So to make those executive functions, to have those skills. So the functions of the frontal lobe, higher order executive skills include attention, reasoning, judgment, problem solving, creativity, emotional regulation, impulse control, social awareness, self-control, motor control, memory, abstract thinking, and planning. You don't want to disable that, right? You want that to be, because that gives you the ability to be autonomous as an individual, to be able to make personal decisions, to have that ability to choose and not be controlled by others. That's why Ellen White says we should not be mere reflectors of other men's thoughts, right? We should be thinkers for ourselves. And that helps, when you're reading books. And so when you're not reading books, we have this constant flash of things across the screen. So using screens impairs frontal lobe development. Over and over again, that's what the studies are showing. Now, God is miraculous. He can heal this. And I've seen that in my own life with all the things that I did to my frontal lobe. But God can heal. But you want to understand this. You want your children to have the best possibilities in life that you can give them.
Executive function skills are slow to develop because they are based in large part in the frontal cortex, which is the last part of the brain to rewire during puberty. Skills essential for executive function include self-control, focus, and the ability to resist those off-ramps. Mm-hmm. So to stay focused.
Have you ever noticed that raising your adult children is harder than raising your children?
No, it's true. I think one of the most challenging things that Mike and I have had as a couple is to be parents of adult children. Because you can't tell them what to do anymore. Right? You can't tell them what to do anymore. You just have to...
You can try to tell them what to do, but then they will just put you on silent mode. And then they'll withdraw your grandchildren from you. Oh, it's happening. It's a big thing in the world.
Yeah, it's a big...
Now you have children who are cutting off grandparents' rights, altogether. Yes. Okay, go ahead.
You have to love them unconditionally. You have to be there and support them. You have to be their biggest cheerleaders, and you have to be irrationally positive.
Yeah.
Right? And not give any advice until they ask you, because unsolicited advice is seen as criticism and judgmentalism.
Yes.
So you only
Yeah.
give them advice when they ask you for advice.
So when my 21-year-old daughter, and I looked at her and I told her something, she said, "Don't you think that I know that already? I've lived with you for 21 years. I know how you think." It hit me, and I was like, okay. I didn't think about that, right? And when you don't think about that, you realize I've been repeating this for 21 years. Now I have to say, what? Keep the welcome mat out and my mouth shut, right? And that's what I do. And it works really well because now they call us all the time. And if they want advice, you don't want to give it. You just listen to them and you ask them questions so they can figure it out for themselves. You get what I'm saying? Because they know what you're going to say anyway. They already told me, right? They schooled me on this whole thing of how I should be a parent. So now I know how I shouldn't respond.
Also, I want to encourage you, which was very difficult for me to accept. You have to remember that you are not responsible for the choices that your adult children make.
Mm-hmm.
Let me say that again. You are not responsible for the choices that they make.
Mm-hmm.
So if they make bad choices and bad decisions, it's not your fault.
But your job is to keep praying for them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
So don't beat up yourself and blame yourself for their bad decisions and say, where did I go wrong?
Mm-hmm.
What did I do wrong? This is my fault. Right? It's not your fault. You're not responsible for their decisions, but you are responsible for how you react towards their decisions. That you are responsible for. That's why I said, like Mike said, keep your mouth shut and the welcome mat out.
That's what Jesus did for
Right?
me, right?
Let
You know
them
what I'm
just
saying?
come in.
Yeah, Jesus was good to me because when I was growing up, I can call myself an idiot because I was. And I was growing up and I was doing all the wrong things to hurt myself. And I was way off track. But the Lord never stopped loving me, right? Mm-hmm. My job was to run and his job was to run faster. And he got me, right? Mm-hmm. He got ahead of me and stopped me and said, wait, enough is enough. And if you want to wake up, you can, but I'm not going to force you. God doesn't force us, but he woos us with his love. And it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, so just don't blame yourself. Never stop praying.
Yeah.
God hears the prayers of parents.
Yeah.
And he loves them more than what we do.
That's right.
So just be there for them. And I know it is easy for me to say this.
Yeah.
But it was difficult. I can tell you, I have filled buckets of tears.
Yeah.
Because of my adult children.
Yeah.
And the decisions that they have made.
But we've loved them unconditionally.
But we
Yeah.
have loved them. But what I'm saying is it's not easy. It's not easy.
So there was like a couple of nights where I prayed and prayed and prayed for one of my daughters. And I knew that I had to pray for her. And as soon as I got that phone call, I was walking into an elevator at the Toronto airport. We had just come back from somewhere. And I knew it was for my daughter. And I knew she was in an accident. I knew it was a car accident right away. And as soon as I answered that phone, they said, your daughter's been in a car accident. It's okay. They went off a cliff in British Columbia. They rolled this car over and over again, stopped just before hitting a tree. And all the tires and the windows and everything blew out. And her friend were completely unharmed. Completely unharmed. They literally flew in the air, right? But I had been praying. And I knew. How did I know that? I think you as a parent know when your child is in trouble. And I knew that I needed to pray for her. And you know what? A number of months later, we had a young lady who was my daughter's age when she got in her car accident. and she was using a walker, and she had brain damage and everything. We did a story on her. But when we saw her, we realized what could have happened to our daughter. All this girl did was go off the road in the snow and hit a tree. And she had brain damage for the rest of her life. But that young lady said to us, I'm so thankful for that accident because God had to stop me because I wouldn't have stopped myself. Because I was on a road to self-destruction. Pray for your children. God can save them and get them to the place where they hit maybe 27, 28 and their frontal lobe starts kicking in and they say,
25.
or 20, and
25,
say,
don't say 27.
oh, sorry, 25. Let's hope that. Let's bring it forward as much as we can. But we're starting to see an awareness, even though we raised them all this way. They know who we are and they know what we do and all this stuff. And our eldest has gone back to church and she's taking her kids with her. And our youngest is, she prays with us. We just prayed with her the other day. We pray with her all the time, right? So they're open to all of this and they know where they come from, right? And our youngest said to us the other day, she said, I'm getting older. She said, I don't think I can be stupid anymore. No, you can't. I wish you had realized that a long time ago. But anyway, it took me a long time too, so I can be merciful. So phone-based childhood is likely to interfere with the development of executive function, okay? That's what the science is telling us. So what can families and parents and children do now? Isn't that a good question? What can we do now? Well, here's what we can do.
Providing children with responsibility around the house makes them feel like an essential part of the family. And giving them more responsibility as they grow could offer some protection against later feelings of uselessness. In fact, a rising number of adolescents now agree with the statement, my life is not very useful.
Right? So, what gives you confidence? Competence. And you can't learn competence without doing it. You become competent at playing the piano by playing it awkwardly, and then you get better. You become competent at playing the violin by doing it screeching, right? And it sounds really bad, but you get better at it. You become competent at loving by saying, I love you, even when you haven't heard it when you were growing up, right? I didn't hear it when I was growing up. To say it to my daughters when they were little was like so hard for me. I couldn't even get the words out of my mouth. I love you. 3 words. But the more you do it, the less awkward it is. And I was teaching this to some Filipino men who said, I never grew up with that. My father never said, I love you. I've never said that to my children. And I said, well, it's a good time to start, right? And then their children came to me and, what's wrong with my dad? Is he going to die? Right? Why? He's acting weird. He's like, I love you, and he's hugging me. And I said, well, do you like it? Oh, yeah, I like it, but it's just awkward, right? And then the parents come to me afterwards on Sabbath, and they say, well, I said I love you, but they're kind of stiff, and it was hard. And I said, yeah, but they told me they like it, so keep doing it. It might be awkward to begin with, but it's never too late, right? I know of a conference president, 5 kids, all of them left the church. He realized what he had done and his responsibility. So he wrote letters to all of them, went and visited them, gave them the letter, read to them, and all of them came back to the Lord. All of them came back to church. It took years, but his humility changed them. Your children never stop being your children. So keep loving them. Even if you did it all wrong before, they're still open to learn, okay? Kids thrive when?
So kids thrive when they are encouraged to function on their own and to realize how much they are capable of doing. Many of the best adventures are going to happen with other children in free play. And unfortunately, this isn't happening today, right?
Yeah.
So because kids are inside on
So you
their
got to get
phones,
like-minded parents to try and do it together, right? and get your kids playing together. They need friends. So when that play includes kids of mixed ages, the learning is deepened, because children learn best by trying something that is just a little beyond their current abilities. In other words, something that is a slightly older kid is doing. So they watch the older kids and they say, I'm going to try that. And you're watching as a parent and you're thinking, oh, right? I wish I didn't have that older kid giving my, kid bad examples and all that. No, let them try, as long as they're not doing something that's, going to hurt them. But sometimes they will get hurt. It just happens. We got hurt all the time when we were kids. Still alive, right? So, older kids?
Older kids can also benefit from interacting with younger kids, taking on the role of a teacher or an older sibling. The best thing you can do is to give them plenty of recreational playtime with some age diversity and a secure, loving base from which they set off to play. Also, find ways for teens to nurture and lead. So this is interesting. So in this book, The Anxious Generation, they speak about parents being protective because we're too afraid. Right? We mentioned this we touched on it a little bit earlier this morning, like you're too afraid to let your kid go out and go for a walk.
Yeah.
Or take the dog for a walk, or
Yes.
go to the grocery store, or, And then they found out that there were a lot of, I can't remember if it was 7-year-olds, I think it was 7-year-olds that didn't know how to use a knife. Because the mother or the parents kept on saying, no, don't use that knife because you're going to hurt yourself, you're going to cut yourself.
You're going to cut yourself, yeah.
So they didn't use a knife because they were so afraid, right? They were going to cut themselves. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Darren.
Thanks, John.
So then, so what happened was they realized that the parents were actually cutting the meat for their kids. And these are 7-year-olds, 7, 8-year-olds, right? Yes, Karina.
Yeah. Yes, cut up their meat. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. There are certain things that are cultural, that's true.
Yes.
That's true. Yeah. 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 Yes. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, that's right.
Yeah. No, it's. Yeah. No, I think culturally is a big thing.
Yeah.
And like Mark said, it is different. It's just to give you another example. So they started this thing in elementary school where they did this project. I can't remember where it was, but it was it 10-year-olds? They were in grade 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was 10-year-olds, and they had to do something at home for 1 week that they'd never done before. Right? So that was the project. So now imagine it makes it easier now because all the kids in the school in that classroom are doing it. So it's not just your kids. So you've got a whole group of people that are doing it together. And in that way, it's supportive. It makes it easier, right? This one little girl, she said that she was responsible to take her little sister. Her parents had left early that morning to go to work. To leave to go to work. And so they told her, you need to take care of your little sister. You need to wake her up. You need to get her ready for school. You need to give her breakfast and make sure that she gets on the school bus. Right? And that's what she had to do as a 10-year-old. Right? And she did it. And afterwards, she felt so good. And she said, you know what? For once in my life, I felt like I was needed. And that she felt needed. And that she wasn't the one that was in need. But she was able to help and to do something. And then there was this little boy, and he decided to cook food, to cook supper for the whole week for his family. Right? That's something that he'd never done before. And this little boy, they realized that he had this love for food, and he made them a 5-course gourmet meal. Right? And the whole family was shocked. And can you imagine how he felt? So accomplished that he was able to make this meal. Right? And to serve and to give to his family. And these are 10-year-olds which are quite capable of doing that.
Yep.
But we don't. We pull back. Right? And it's easier said than done to let go.
Yep.
You know? But it made such a big difference on these kids.
Yep.
Because they felt like they were needed. They had a purpose in their life. Right? They were accomplished and they were capable of doing it.
Yeah.
They could do it. So, anyway, what were you going to say?
Well, along the same lines as you, I have a nephew who's 7 or 8 years old, and he loves coming over to the farm because often they just kind of do what they have to do in the family. It's a busy family, right? So he comes over to my place, and he's responsible for feeding the chickens and picking the eggs.
Nice.
You wouldn't see a bigger smile.
Nice.
He goes in and you say to him, I don't want any broken eggs.
Yeah.
And he comes back and he says,
Yeah.
Uncle, no broken eggs.
Yeah.
No broken eggs.
Yeah.
No broken
Yeah.
eggs. Right
Yeah.
on.
That's awesome.
It's not-
Yeah.
It's just a small thing, but it gives him that leadership
Yeah.
that he's good at something.
That's right. That's right. Very good.
Yes.
This one mother, she didn't want to send her kid to summer camp, right? And they were camping literally in the woods. And so they had to bring their own sleeping bags and their tents. Her son was 11 years old, and he was beyond excited. And when she dropped him off, he had his tent and everything, but he forgot his sleeping bag. So there was an older kid who was there who was his camp counselor. You know, this young kid was probably 15, 16. And he saw the situation, and she saw her son was ready to cry because he forgot his sleeping bag. Now he can't go. And this older kid said, no, I brought an extra sleeping bag just for you, right? Just for this, because this is going to happen. So after that, you know, the kid was so overjoyed, of course. But then actually it was a couple of years later that the mother found out that that kid who gave his sleeping bag didn't have an extra sleeping bag. He gave his own sleeping bag. So not only did that little kid get the joy of going out camping and leaving his tablet and his cell phone at home, right, which changed that kid, but that kid learned to be a mentor, right? He learned what leadership was about. And leadership is really about service and serving other kids. So one of the programs that we did, I can't remember the name of it, but it was about these kids who went, it was in Ontario, and it was on a reserve in Ontario. We did it on It Is Written Canada. It's something about an outdoor adventure program. I don't know if some of you have seen it, but what they had was all the kids in this Native community, none of them went to university. So they might finish high school, but a lot of them didn't even finish high school. So Laurentian University went there and they said, I wonder if we take them out on a camping trip and they canoe and they learn how to canoe like their ancestors. Just go out for a week.
No, it was 10 days,
Well,
just over a week.
Yeah, so they did a week, 10 days. Some of them were actually 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But they started it off with just this one canoe trip. And those kids, we interviewed them, showed the whole canoe trip, and they tip their canoes, and they have to make their own food, and they have to sleep on the sides of the, of the river and everything. And all of those kids ended up going to university. Out of one camping trip, right? Out of one canoe trip, because they had this sense of confidence. And so one of the things that those kids mentioned was, if I wasn't here, I'd be sitting at home scrolling on my phone. Yeah. So that was huge. Now they introduced it as a part of their community. ADRA supports it, and so they provide funding for this program, and that community's completely changed. And it's been going for more than a decade. So good, very, very good program. So, do you think that increased parental protection increases confidence and competence among kids? Yes or no? No. So when we hover over our kids, they introduced this program called Kids Step Up, when adults step back, okay? And a very, very good program that helps. It increased parental protection. What does it say? Increased parental protection leads to increased anxiety and insecurity among kids. So we don't want to do that. We don't want to be overprotective. And here's the problem, though. We shouldn't blame parents for helicoptering. Because earlier independence, you see, we think to ourselves, okay, this is what we should do. We are told, right? We actually blame parents if we see kids walking on their own. But we shouldn't, right? And so they feel this social stigma. But earlier independence milestones gradually disappear under a mountain of media-fueled fear. And that's the problem. The media tells you, you have to be afraid because your kid is this is what's going to happen to them. And now they're starting to discover a lot of this is just fueled by the media. And if kids are let up to go out, they can achieve a whole lot more if they are given that independence.
Because many kids are afraid to try something new, and their parents don't have confidence that they can do something new, all of which leads to more overprotection, which leads to more anxiety. Right? So, I mentioned the example of that little boy that cooked a 5-course meal, and the little girl that felt so accomplished, about looking after a little sister. They also mentioned something about letting your children walk to school. Let them walk to school. It's okay if they walk to school, if they can go to somewhere. But then they say, but what happens if they live too far? We live too far. It's too far for them to walk. Then you just drive them and drop them off where they're going to do a 5-minute walk to school. Mm-hmm. It'd be okay if they just walk for 5 minutes.
That's right.
Yeah. So just drop them off and let them walk. Okay, so you just got a 5-minute walk to school, so now you're going to be on time, and And this is amazing because it causes them to walk and to be with friends.
That's right.
You're
Social
walking with friends, and you walk, you're social.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So call like-minded parents and say, can my kids walk to school with you? So the healthiest play is outdoors and includes occasional physical risk-taking and thrilling adventure. So look at that. Do you think we'd have a park like that anymore? Outrageous. I would love a park like that. Look at that one kid. He's standing. These kids are standing. We'd be scared out of our tree if we saw something like that. But now look what happens to our parks. Those were fun. This is in the 70s, right? You could get flung off that thing and go, That's wonderful. And then we got these kind of parks, right? No one's going to get hurt on that. That's why no one plays on it, right? Unless they're little tiny things, right? And so we just overprotected. So this is a report on how children struggle to hold a pencil. Why? Because I don't know if you've ever seen this online, but they have these kids, they're asleep and they're going like this. They're in their dreams, right? But they haven't developed the dexterity in their fingers to actually hold a pencil. Whoever writes anymore, like cursive, if you can barely print, right? So you can tick, 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 tick on the little, or your thumb is working, right?
Lisa and I are having our devotion, and you were needing to scroll through our Bible.
Yeah.
I grabbed my Bible and started scrolling the numbers. What am I doing?
Yeah.
That's embarrassing.
You're scrolling through your Bible. Yeah. I know. Yeah.
So they did this research and found out that most 11-year-olds have never climbed a tree
Yeah.
today.
So then they were asked.
So they said, would you like to climb a tree? They said, we didn't know we could climb a tree. Okay, so do you want to try? Right? Sure. They went up the tree, came back down again, and then afterwards they asked them, so what did you think about that, And they said, well, it was a bit scary, when we went higher, but it was okay. So what were you thinking about when you were climbing the tree? Guess what the answer was?
Number one answer.
What the number one answer was? They couldn't wait to get back to the video game that they were playing before they climbed the
Yeah.
tree.
Couldn't wait to get back to my tablet.
They were thinking
right?
about that. They were thinking about the video game that they were going to get back to and play once they got down the tree.
Yeah.
So
our eldest daughter, as you know, she has a 2-year-old, and he's going on to 25. He's so independent. Like, this little kid is so much fun to play with. He's got the energy of like 1,000 Duracell batteries, and he's so much fun to play with. Like, it was raining out, and I was playing in the rain with him. Like, he just loved everything we did, and he's an adventure seeker, and we just had fun. But she was phoning us and telling us that all he was doing was sitting in the house on the iPad. What had happened
So what happened was, sorry.
Start from the beginning. Okay. That's how she said it to us.
So he was very, like a busybody.
Yeah.
He's 2 years old, very energetic.
Yeah.
And she was having a hard time with him in the car.
Yeah, that's where it started.
Right? So when she would drive on the car, wherever they would go, he didn't like being in the car seat, didn't want to be in the car, he wanted to get out. But she had to get stuff done,
Yeah.
right? And do things. So what she did was she gave him the iPad or the iPhone to quiet him down
Yeah.
while she was driving,
Yes.
right? Because it was easier.
Yeah.
But then she noticed, it started just by that, but then it started becoming more, just a little bit at a time. Okay, when we get home now, he's awake, I need to clean the house, I need to cook the food, I'll just let him look at the phone,
Right.
right? And just watch the Wiggles or whatever. It was just what is innocent, right? And it shouldn't be that bad. And so he'll just watch those little things, and that'll give me time to clean the house, because that takes time. This was probably going on for about a month or so.
At least, yeah.
Maybe 2 months.
Yeah.
And then she called one day, and he was having a temper tantrum like I've never seen in my life before. Right? So then she said, Mom, did we ever throw temper tantrums like this before? And I'm like, no. But I said, Joanne, I don't know, because you are girls. I just know about raising girls, right? And I've got 2 sisters, so I don't know really about boys, right? So then Mark, God is so good. Mark was looking at this time about looking at Dr. Victoria Dunkley's Reset Your Child's Brain. And so he just sent a short little clip.
It was
Just a short
3 minutes.
3-minute thing to Joanne and said, this is what I learned about, take a look at this. And then she realized, you know what? I think I'm doing the right thing. But this is affecting my child because he's becoming dysregulated, and this is causing him to have a meltdown. because he's so dysregulated, because then he would cry and he would want the phone. He would want the phone, he would want the tablet, and she would say, no, I'm not giving it to you. And like I said, it's a temper tantrum like I'd never seen before, you know. And so then she stopped. It was not easy, because now she had to listen to screaming in the car, right? It was terrible. And it takes her extra long to get stuff done, because now she has to become creative to replace that and distract him from wanting that. So he's going to help do the dishes. He's going to help clean the vacuum, you know. And when you've got a toddler helping you, it takes forever. And you need a lot of patience, especially if you're tired, right? And he's close to nap time. So it's very, very difficult for her. But after probably about a month of struggling, it wasn't even a month.
No, it was a couple weeks.
It was after about 2 weeks of struggling.
Yeah.
And him crying and her crying, she said, Mom, I got my child back.
Yeah.
No more temper tantrums.
Yeah.
No more meltdowns.
Yeah. He wanted to
It
go
was
outside.
incredible. He wants to go outside. He didn't want to go outside to play with his cars or anything.
Yeah.
He just wanted to be inside.
On the tablet.
Now he wants to go outside. He wants to play with his cars. He wants to kick the ball. He wants to go for walks. He wants to run in the rain in puddles and get sopping wet. It's not a problem anymore.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult doing that and sticking with it.
Yeah.
Is very, very difficult. And we have to remember, and this is the challenge, as parents, we have to set an example.
Yeah.
Right? Because if we are constantly on our phone, what are we going to expect? Right? And nowadays, when we went to Australia, it was quite a challenge, because it was my mom, myself, my daughter, 3 generations in one home for longer than 2 weeks. Right? And it is a challenge because things are differently. My mom's generation, and a little bit to my generation, you did what you were told. You didn't say anything back. Right? You didn't even think about doing anything else, and even rebelling. You just did it, whether you liked it or not. When I say no, I mean no, and that's it. You know, that's how we were raised. And so, you know, I would see our eldest one is 2.5 years old, and then she had her youngest one, 2.5 years old, and the youngest one, that's when the youngest one was born, right? So there was a lot of jealousy, you know, between
Those two boys.
Between the two boys,
Yeah.
especially the oldest one, because he's still nursing, right? So there was a lot of jealousy there. And so, you know, so he would sometimes be mean, and he would hit his brother, or he would act out towards his brother, you know. And then, you know, I'm thinking over here, and my mom is thinking, you know, that's naughty. Like, don't do that. You know, you give them a smack, or if your child is misbehaving, you get a spanking, right? That's what happened with us, you know. And yeah, my daughter's like, oh no, Tone, don't do that. Gentle hands, be gentle, you know. Or, you know, so it's the parenting styles are completely different, completely different. It's not the same as it was many years ago,
no.
you know. So.
But we were all there, and it's good to have community, because we would take him out. And
Yes.
a boy needs to get exhausted.
Yes.
You know, not just exhausted, but completely exhausted, right? So if I take him out and we play and play and play and play and play and play, I'd exhaust myself. I'd get up in the morning and it'd run and say, Opa, let's play. And we'd play the whole day, literally the whole day.
No, until nap time.
Well, then he'd nap time, and then we'd play after that. I'd have to get a nap too. And then he would sleep well at night though, and he would do his naps. But before that, you know, and if he doesn't, a boy needs that. And they just need, and they play differently than girls, by the way. So children spend twice as much time on video games alone than on all outdoor activities combined. Now, here's the thing that really hit me. 3/4 of children spend less time outdoors than prison inmates spend outdoors. Yeah. So prison inmates get out for 2 hours a day. Most kids don't. Okay? And so when prison inmates realized that, they were like, whoa, you guys are, you're it's child abuse.
So encourage walking to school in a group. That's what I mentioned earlier on. So drive. If the school is too far for a walk or to ride a bicycle, consider drive to 5. So drive to 5 minutes of walking. You drop the kids off with other kids at a spot that is 5 minutes away from school. So they can do that together.
So when we did this at another school, Adventist school, they said, okay, we're going to do that. I didn't know. They went and they did that, and then they come and report it to us the next day. And I'm so excited because I see these kids taking these things and they're saying, yeah, I'm going to do that for myself. Not a parent telling them what to do. They're just doing it themselves. And they're all getting together and they're saying, I want to get better, so how am I going to do that? These are good practices. So practice letting your kid out of your sight without them having a way to reach you. That's hard.
It's very hard. So when you're having family nights together with other families, let the parents, the mothers cook the meal, and then send all the kids out to the grocery store to go buy garlic, even if you don't need garlic.
Mm-hmm.
Let the kids go by themselves to go and buy the garlic without their phones.
Or take a dog with them, go with other friends, however they're going to do it. So
just let them do it. Just let them go. They will be okay.
Yeah. So
they'll be okay.
Professor Jonathan Haidt from New York University, who wrote the book Anxious Generation, he said the hardest thing for him was letting his son go to school on his own, because he's in New York City, right, walking through the traffic, everything. He followed him for the first 2 months in his car. Yeah, 8-year-old, going behind him. And he didn't have a phone. Kid didn't have a phone. He watched him until he couldn't see him anymore, and he got to school. He did this for 2 months. Eventually, he would go to the first set of traffic lights, and then eventually they let him go. That was hard. But then when he hit a certain milestone, I think he was 15 years old, and he was really good at playing tennis, and he wanted to go and watch a tennis match at somewhere in New York where there was this big, I think it was, anyway, big Madison Square Gardens or something. I don't know what it is called there. But he went to watch a tennis match, and it was US Open. But the problem was getting home. He would have to get on the trains and the subway and everything to get there on his own at the age of 15. He didn't have any friends with him. He didn't use a cell phone. Didn't use anything. He had to find how to do it. His dad walked him through all the processes, how to get there and how to get back. When the game was over, it was going to be after midnight that he would have to get back on the subway system. The problem was they didn't walk through one of the processes, and that was if one of the subways was closed when he got there, which it was. And his kid went upstairs and flagged a taxi and got home that way. And he said, my son, when that happened, was more independent than he'd ever become in his life. He said from that time on, his son grew up because he let him do it. He said, but they were at home, wide awake until he got home, right? Worrying about him. But he said they didn't have an app to track him, nothing. They just let him do it. And
How do you think that son felt, though?
Oh, yeah. Great sense of accomplishment. Because he could do it.
He could do it, right?
So can we let go? Go camping, as we said. Kids going camping, or schedule something where you can do activities, right? Just do something where you're getting outdoors. Listen to this. Reduce imposed rules. This happened in New Zealand. In this school where there were all kinds of rules. They couldn't even ride their bikes to school. And when they reduced the rules, what had happened? It decreased injury, it decreased vandalism, and it decreased bullying by reducing the rules. And also not having teachers outside policing. They would police themselves. And what else did it show? Increased trust, increased happiness, and increased confidence. Reduce the rules. Ellen White says the same thing in the book Education. Reduce the number of rules. Parents have few well-considered rules. And tell them and make them very clear and the reasoning very clear as to why you're doing those things. Not a whole list of rules that are so complicated and you don't know why. You know?
So in the schools where they reduced these imposed rules, they also wanted to increase recreational play. So they started these playgrounds where they would make huge places, like huge areas with open spaces. They would have 2x4s, they would have bales of hay, they would have all different kinds of equipment.
Yeah,
nails, hammers,
saws, all kinds of things.
Yeah, all kinds of things. And the teachers or the adults that were on duty just had to be there in case of an emergency. But they were not allowed to interfere with the children's play and tell the children what to do.
Yeah.
They had to just let them play, right? And so imagine these kids were creating all these different forts, and this was at elementary school, and so a child cannot move a bale of hay by himself. It's very hard to do that. So now they had to talk and communicate with each other to move these bales of hay, to create a fort, and to have 2x4s, and to use the saw and to create something together, right? So it caused an opportunity for there to be connection and communication, which brought about community.
Yeah.
But the adults had to stand back and not interfere. Right?
So they're watching, and this one kid, he's hammering something, right? And he hits his thumb. And instead of running to his parent or even looking to an adult, he kind of shakes it off and he sticks it in his mouth, and then he keeps going, right? Normally kids would no, that's in our head. In their head, if they're having fun, they're going to hurt themselves and they're going to get over it real quick. Like real quick. I would watch with Tane. If he'd fall down, if he saw that I saw him, he'd start crying. If he didn't see that I saw him, he'd just get up. Right? They just carry on. Okay. Right? So talk with your children about the risks and listen to their thoughts. About whatever's going on, the risks of social media, listen to them. Is this age appropriate? Ask them questions. What happens when you get exposed to online pornography? How do you deal with that, right? Talk to them about this because it's going to happen. And so as you talk to them about it, how do they do this? And not with a top-down approach, and not with I said, and so you have to do that. Or I went to and I listened to Mike and René, and you're going to turn out to be, No. You have to be as compassionate as Jesus is with you and love them. You know that they're going to face these things, but you want to be that open to listen, right?
Learn how to use parental controls and content filters on all the digital devices in your home. These are available. And focus on blocking access to age-inappropriate sites and apps, and specify times when devices can and cannot be used. So this is better to do as young, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Even as teenagers.
Teenagers, but it's very hard to introduce this as teenagers. Now all of a sudden to say to your 17-year-old, give me your phone before you go to bed. Right? If you haven't been doing that before. Right? Because they're getting close to being adults.
So there are all kinds of the best parental control apps on the market. You've got Apple's Screen Time, you've got Google's Family Link, and you've got the one called, how do you say that? Custodio. Custodio happens to be the best one online that's available, and you pay for it though. It is a paid subscription, but from all the reviews, it seems to be the best one for helping control and also helping you to know what your children are watching and looking at and putting those restrictions on their phones. And they can't get past it. It really does help. And of course, you talk with them through that. So consider taking a digital Sabbath every week, a full day where no screen devices are used. And we encourage all young people to do this, and we encourage you to do this. where you're not looking at devices.
And we have to encourage ourselves to do it because we cannot, I'm thinking about, and I know comparison is not good, but when we were staying at Fountain View Academy,
Yeah.
we were in a valley with mountains all around us, and there was no cell phone service.
Yeah, for 12 years.
So we didn't have a cell phone.
We didn't even know how to use them.
Right? So we had to learn how to text.
Literally.
We weren't sure how to text. But there wasn't any service there.
Yeah.
So we didn't have cell phones.
Yeah.
Right? But now,
Yeah.
working in the job that we can,
Yeah.
if we leave home and we forgot our cell phone at home, what do you think we do?
Yeah.
We go back. We cannot
That never
function
happens. Yeah. No, that has
without.
happened.
No, but it's
It has.
true. We
It's
can't
true.
function without our cell phones.
It's true.
Today.
So 6 years
Right?
ago, we got this job. They put a cell phone in my hand, a smartphone. I didn't even know how to use it. I literally didn't know how to use it. So 6 years ago. No, I left it everywhere. I would leave it in the washroom. I would leave it, if I went shopping or something, I'd leave it somewhere. I never knew what to do. I didn't know you had to carry it with you everywhere. It was like, why do I carry this thing everywhere? And it was so strange to me. Why am I carrying this thing everywhere? And then you become dependent on it. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, what? I had to relearn how the rest of the world lives. And when I first told that story, the young people, they would say to me, I would love to live like that, right? They would love to live like that. They would love to get rid of their device, but they feel like they can't. So here's just slow ways, right? Consider taking a screen-free week every year. Or perhaps a vacation. Go on a vacation in a beautiful natural place, a natural setting where you can leave your device behind. It changes you. It does you do your reset. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. So for me, people say to me, how did you get off meat, for example? Okay? So we live a plant-based life. And I said, we were eating meat, right? And that's the way I lived. But then I learned that instead of us all having a piece of chicken just take one piece of chicken, chop it up, and put it in a stir fry. And then slowly, eventually, the meat fell off the plate, right? And so you slowly learn how to live a different way. And you're not weird either. In fact, other people look at you and say, I want that. Right? How did you do that? I would like to learn how to do that. And it's not like a magic bullet. All of a sudden it happens. It's just like you do it slowly and you learn and you're educated and you realize that there are better ways of living. There are natural remedies that are better than pharmaceutical remedies, by the way, okay? Like, for example, when I got sick, you know what I did? I'll show you something that my wife maybe doesn't like. I took organic onion, chopped it up, took some cling wrap, took off my socks, and I wrapped that organic onion around my feet. Chopped up in little pieces. Any of you ever done that before? Did that, put the socks on, did it on both feet, woke up in the morning, no cold. Right? Prayer. Well, of course, God was healing. He uses the natural remedies. We just follow him, right? That wasn't the only thing I did. There are other things like ginger and turmeric and other things. But these things help. And so when you learn these things, you can do. Yes, go ahead, Carson. It does. Oh, but you know why it's still all stinky? Because it's pulling all those toxins out of your body. That's why my wife doesn't love it. She's like, But,
no, but not just that. The bedding, everything smells of onion.
Yeah.
Like there's just onion everywhere.
That's why we have a washing machine. Yes. Yeah, in one night, gone. But if I did that 2 weeks, no, I'd still be coughing, right? So let's look at some digital habits to finish off. So 7 digital habits we've given you. How many already today? Lots, okay? We've already given you 21. So we're going to give you 28 by the end of this, okay? If you must use an alarm, use an actual alarm clock, not your phone. Why? Because you're using your phone for everything. And when you do this, you're not keeping it there when you're asleep, and you want to turn it off. Also, the EMF, you don't want that near your head, okay? You don't want that near you when you're sleeping. So this is, I haven't used the alarm clock for years and years and years, okay? And this is what I have claimed many years ago. Morning by morning, he wakens me and opens my ear to hear and to understand his will. Do you know that God wakens me up every morning? Does he use that for you?
Every morning he wakes me up.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, and for you?
I have to use an alarm.
You, Lord.
I mean, I've had other pastors tell me this too, and I'm still kind of supernaturalness of that.
It would be supernatural for some of us. That's right. My wife, she needs an alarm clock, not me. Yeah, we're all different. And when I say that, I don't want to put any kind of spiritual, I'm better than anyone. I'm definitely not, okay? I struggle the most out of anyone in the world. This is really, I claim that promise, and God has done that for me. The one time we used an alarm clock recently, I think, was to wake us up to go to a plane, and we are getting
we
up.
had to leave 4 o'clock in the morning or something.
Yeah. But usually, Lord wakes, even if we set the alarm clock, he'll wake me up like a minute before.
But not that
And I'll
time.
be, yeah, not that time. No, I was deep in sleep. I was really deep
That
in
alarm didn't go off, you wouldn't
sleep.
have
That's
woken
true.
up.
Yeah.
Number 2, guard your morning devotions and evening sleeping patterns by using phone settings to mute all notifications.
Okay, there's all kinds of things you can do on your phone. Educate yourself, because usually we're swimming across the surface, and that thing's really deep. There's a lot of things your phone can help you with. Okay? And if you learn those tools, you realize, oh, this thing can actually help me, so that I'm using it and it's not controlling my life. Okay. Good.
Number 3, answer non-urgent emails from your computer rather than responding immediately from your phone.
Yeah, that really helps me a lot too, because then I focus on that instead of having fragmented thinking.
So when eating or spending quality time with family or friends, leave your phone out of sight and on silent mode so you're not distracted. And then number 5, delete social media accounts from your phone so you aren't tempted to waste time scrolling when you're bored.
Yeah.
Number 6, if needed, use self-restricting apps which will help limit time spent mindlessly browsing or scrolling. And then number 7, invite your family members and close friends to give you feedback on your digital habits to help you be aware of excessive phone absorption. I think there is something on your phone that tells you how many hours you've spent.
Screen time. Yeah. Good. So before we pray, any questions? We would like to go into the whole thing of addictions, but we don't have enough time this afternoon. We can come back and do it another time. And that's a huge... We will, absolutely. Yeah, I'll definitely come back. Yeah. Just, any questions? Yes.
No, I don't have a question. I just wanted to share something that happened last week. My
Yes.
daughter she has 3 little kids, and she likes to experience everything.
Yes.
So I phoned her and I said, how's everything with you? And she said, I just got back from the hair salon. We had to cut Veda's hair off. And I said, how come? She was helping her mom with the KitchenAid mixer.
Yeah.
And her hair got caught and ripped it all out. So I
Whoa.
guess what I'm saying is she's 4.
Yeah.
You have to be aware of certain things that
Yes.
can hurt your kids.
Yeah.
She was right there. And I told her, I said, yeah, when one of my girls was young, we had these little seals that you put in the bath and their little flippers would go around. Anyway, I had to cut one of my girls' hairs off too because it got caught in the seal flipper. But they didn't die. Like
No,
you said.
they didn't die.
Didn't die.
No.
Yeah.
When you let your kids start cooking, I don't know if you've ever tried this, but usually the first few meals aren't that great. Okay? They get better as they go along. And both of our daughters are great cooks now. When they started, it was experimental for us. Okay? And we smiled and ate it. Anyone else? Thoughts?
Would anyone else like to share or have a question or want to give us some advice or?
Yes.
Yes.
Carson.
The guy who made Apple, he didn't let his kids use cell phones or iPads
Yes.
because it was bad for them.
That's right. Steve Jobs, we went over one of those slides and we didn't show it to you, but Steve Jobs actually said that. He was asked how his children liked the new iPhone, and he said, all devices are prohibited in our family. They're too dangerous. So Steve Jobs never allowed his children to use any devices when they were kids, and even Bill Gates was very, very strict on his kids as they were growing up, and his wife said that she wished she had waited because they waited until they were 14. She said they should have been older when they got a device. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's very true, Carson. Thanks for sharing. And all these technology gurus that made all these apps, they don't have devices in their homes either, and they send their kids to the Waldorf school in the Silicon Valley. Have you heard about the Waldorf school?
Yeah.
So, in this Waldorf school, they teach agriculture, they go hiking, there's no electronic devices, no screens, nothing
Gardening,
in the classrooms.
yeah.
They teach them gardening, they have to write, they teach them how to do cursive, they teach them hands-on practical things, how to work on cars with engines and stuff. They go canoeing.
They read physical books.
Books, yeah.
So there's no devices whatsoever, and their nannies in their homes are not allowed to use any device.
They have to sign a contract.
And they sign this contract, and there's cameras everywhere in the house and around the property, and if they're seen on a device, they lose their job. So
Immediately.
So
Their
none of their
nannies
nan-
are fired.
So the people who are closest to it, right, know the harms that it causes. As Steve Jobs said in that interview in the New York Times, he said that it's just too dangerous. It's just too dangerous. We will not allow our children to have access to it. Yeah, Ashley?
Just wondering, and maybe somebody has perspective. Let's say, you feel like you need to have your cell phone with you when you sleep because of an emergency. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it could happen. So I have my phone off, right? As you know. My wife doesn't. So she has hers on notification, and she's got an Apple Watch.
No, I don't have I have it on
Oh, so you don't
airplane
have it.
mode.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
turn it on airplane mode, and sometimes I'll put on the do not disturb. But then you have favorites that you can, if there is an emergency, they can call you, and that will alert you.
Yeah.
Right. So only if certain people call you will you be alerted. And so, I think for me, that's helpful for me and gives me peace of mind, And I think as women we're more emotional, and so we need that. So when my daughter was giving birth to both her children, I didn't put my phone off, and I had that setting on so that she could call me, or when my dad was ill and my dad wasn't doing well, I had that on for many times. So, yeah.
Does that help? Yeah. There are ways that you can use these things. Absolutely, yes. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
I just want to say that, when the children are left in the house, because this day and age, you hardly see any of them going outside playing.
That's right.
I remember as a child, I'd be out playing on the street hockey in the wintertime.
Yeah, that was my life.
30 below.
Yeah.
I'd be out there with all the neighborhood kids, and we'd have a lot of fun.
A lot of fun.
And building snow forts. I don't know how many snow forts I built.
Yeah.
And tree forts, and catching field mice and rabbits.
Yeah.
Bringing home frogs and I'll tell you a story about the field mice. I let them in the house.
Oh yeah.
And I caught some bats, and I put the bats in my sister's bedroom, and they would climb up on the curtains. She'd come home, and they'd be chirping up in the curtains, and she just, Randy. But anyways, we just went to an optometrist here. We just had our checkups. Excuse me, I think I need a bit of water. But anyways, the optometrist said that these days, when the kids are in the house, the way they are.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
it's going to affect their eyes. Yeah.
What happens is that they're not giving their eyes distance.
Yeah.
They're looking at the walls of the house, looking at screen time, and more kids are actually getting glasses because of it. They're not exercising their long vision by going outside and seeing things at a far distance.
Yeah.
So it's becoming a bit of an epidemic that way.
Yeah.
And we have to, just like you say, looking up, we
Yeah.
have to look
Look up and
distance
up.
also.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Thank you, Randy.
it helps, the sight of children.
That's right.
Wow, thank you for sharing that, Randy. I didn't think about developing with that eyesight, like with the long distance, you know. So you don't think about those things, right? Because it's so foreign to us
Yeah.
with this generation, you
Yeah.
know. And your poor mother, she must have been really happy with you for bringing field mice into the house.
I'd rather have field mice in the house than my child doesn't even talk to me, right? I'd rather deal with all that, right? Yeah, go ahead.
I just
Right.
want to mention reading child guidance and education is so important because
Yeah.
it's something that we learned. My husband was into glasses very early in grade school. And I remember bringing my kids to the eye doctor, making sure,
Yeah.
getting that test done. And then at one point, the eye doctor said, well, one of my sons, that his eyes were more to the 0 than he would like. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? I should not teach him how to read yet? He goes, oh, no, don't hold him back on his education. And I thought, I know about the eye and the development of the eye,
Yeah.
learning from Raymond and Dorothy Moore and, and Better Late Than Early. And so I intentionally did not teach him how to read.
Yeah.
He wanted to learn how to read. I read to him whatever he wanted to know. I mean,
Yes.
we were homeschooling 5 kids, so
Yeah.
I was his reader,
Yeah.
and we would read together until he finally begged me to read. Fast forward, we held back his reading because I knew his eyes were to the 0.
Yeah.
Than they could be. His eyes turned out being amazing.
Yeah.
We just delayed
Yeah.
that too early for the close and needing that sight. And as a young adult, he was saying his eyes were doing some really weird things. And I said, well, you better go to the doctor right away, get that all checked out. And the doctor said, your vision is going to get better and better as you age. He said,
Yeah.
this is crazy. Like, he can really see well.
Yes.
But I just wanted to also mention about the Steve Jobs.
Yes.
Is that there are many Hollywood actors that their children didn't even know what they did for a living.
Correct.
They didn't want them to know,
Correct.
right? So
Correct. Because the kids never watch movies. Yeah. They never watch movies or any of that. They don't watch TV. They don't watch any of that.
when we homeschooled our kids, I taught them how to work before I taught them how to read. Naturally, with this one son as well.
Yeah.
But fast forward 30 years, now their wives are saying, thank you for teaching them how to rip up. Well, I didn't have to teach. I gave them motorbikes. You can have a horse. You can ride
Yeah.
your bikes. You
Yeah.
can go build a log cabin with your axes at 5, 6, 7 years old. But now they can drop engines and rebuild them. And, now they have the added Google. But there was nothing that stopped them. One time I stopped by and my son said, Mom, I made this pumpkin cheesecake. What do you think? And just try it out. And they all know how to cook and eat. You just allow
Yeah.
kids to be kids.
That's right. That's right. And they'll
Maybe that
remember, it says in the Bible, raise up a child, and they don't forget. And our children, as much as they might go off, and so they're wild oats, I can see how they're different, and they know, and the way they're relating to life is different, and they're far more, when they settle down, they know why they settle down. And so you have to let Jesus write his own story in their heart, right? And he will. We pray for that every day. Yeah.
Coming back to Steve Jobs, it's like the CEOs of Coca-Cola and Kraft.
Yeah.
They don't have Coca-Cola and their own products in their homes,
Yeah.
right?
They have their own personal trainers.
And they have their own
and
personal trainers.
And they have their own nutritionists, but they won't eat any of their own products, right? Mm-hmm. So don't get high on your own supply, right? So, yes, go ahead, there, Ann, and then we'll go.
Well, I know that, like I was thinking about the one lady needing a cell phone.
Yeah.
I needed a cell phone because I needed a kidney transplant.
Yeah.
But the police would have found me if I didn't have a cell phone. They would have sent a helicopter to find me if I got the phone call. But anyways, a couple of things that I realized when Game Boy first came out, and playing the Tetris game. My whole family was kind of hooked on it.
Yep.
And then I realized that there was a point where even if I wasn't playing the game, I would see the blocks falling down
Yes.
in my head.
Yes.
And I said, no more. I
Yeah.
stopped playing it right away.
Yeah.
Also, another comment is that when you have the actual Bible in your hands,
Yes.
instead of, you can scroll it. Oh, I want Matthew 4:4.
Yeah.
Type the letters and bang, it's right there.
Yeah.
But I found I will purposely get my Bible out, because then I realize now I know where the books are in the Bible by because I see it, and I have the Bible in my hands.
Yeah, it's different from a virtual world, right? Because we're embodied, we're in space and time, and being able to use a physical book actually is shown to be way better for a child's development and human interaction and their spiritual elevation, to have a physical book. That's quite something, yeah. So that's very good comments. I liked all those comments. They were really good. Yeah, I just wanted, there was something you said there that really sparked something. Anyway, continue. Go ahead.
Hey, Mike, just a kind of a quick comment, but I think God is so amazing. In Corinthians, he talks that we're running a race, and we want to finish that race.
That's
We
right.
want the crown at the end of that race.
Right.
I had a couple of years where I got to coach a very high level of athletes, and what was remarkable to see is the phones got taken away. When we're on the bus ride going to the games, when they come on the bus, those athletes, they give you their phone.
Yeah.
They go to the back. If they listen to some music or they close their eyes for a little bit, they start thinking about what they got to do in the game or whatever. Sometimes they'll do, like, play cards or something like that to just get their thoughts away from.
Yeah.
But the closer you get to that facility where they're going to play, you can just see on that bus that focus, right? The focus that they're centered on doing the very best that they can.
Yes.
They come into the arena, they do their warm-ups, they go on the ice, they do their warm-ups, and you can tell. And then as a coach, you give them that spiel. They're focused.
Yeah.
These screens and stuff, they take that focus, is what we're learning today. They take that focus away from
Yeah.
us and from being on Christ. And I learned a lot just watching those players, because they had to have self-control.
Yeah.
They had to say, you know what, the game means more to me than this game.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
thank you for the presentation, guys,
No,
today.
thanks, sir. So that's really good, because self-control, discipline is freedom. And we think discipline takes away our freedom. No, it gives you more freedom. And so you want to cultivate discipline. Discipline is a really good, it frees you. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say that it's also in the book of education, how important it is to teach our children to self-govern,
Yes.
because that is when they actually have control of their life,
Yes.
and makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep them, something you said earlier about better late than never, right? Better late than early. Yeah,
By
better
Raymond
late
and
than
Dorothy
early.
Moore.
So a good friend of ours, he's a surgeon, and he didn't start reading until he was like 9 years old, right? And he was held back. But he's a surgeon today, and he does really, really well. And we have so many countless students like that who came to Fountain View who are, top achievers, and they homeschooled, and they did it late. And these kids are highly successful. In fact, at one stage, we had pretty much every main Adventist university in North America, their leading student association people were all from Fountain View. Yeah, so they turn out good kids, right? So it's like your Waldorf school is actually doing it, but we're doing it the exact same thing, but in a Christian, from a Christian point of view. Yeah. So.
Just wanted to share about Ashley saying about the phone and the needing to be connected. I struggle myself. I shut off all the pings, the sounds, all of those notifications are off, and now just plug in the phone in the living room. It's charged over there. If somebody really needs to get a hold, they'll phone 3-4 times.
Yep.
But if we look into the dangers of the EMF,
Yes.
That's huge. It's not even supposed to be in our room. Apparently, somewhere on that fine print, when we buy those phones, it's not supposed to be within 1 inch of your body at any time.
Yeah.
And so, to sleep away from the phone, get it out there. And
Yeah.
people will phone 3 times. They'll wake you up.
Yeah, good. I try to keep it as far away from my body as possible. So, yeah. I never put it on my head. So, yeah. Anyone else? Thoughts? There's a lot of good thoughts here. And we could share more and more. But I think you get the idea that we have all of these abilities, and God is with us, and He's helping us in these last days to use these devices for good, and they can be used for good, and not for evil. Just as anything, just as your car, anything, you can use it for good and not for evil, and you can use it to better your life, okay, and not, make it so that it's controlling you. Any last thoughts, though? Okay. So we want to ask you to take a moment to pray together, and speak to the Lord, and then Pastor Joe will take over. I wanted to get a picture with a lot of people, but there's a lot of people have gone. I don't know if you want a picture with us afterwards. We can do that later. Okay. We can do it. Okay. Yeah, no, it's fine. Or, yeah. But Daryl, you got some good pictures earlier too, as well. So. Yeah, we can do that.
We don't have to do a picture.
Yeah, we don't have to do a picture. Let's take a moment to pray. Okay.
All right, dear friends, without any further ado, let's just dismiss. We've had our prayer. We just need to pack things down. We're going to be at the gym in an hour and a half from now, so you guys head back to the motel and just get some sleep. Yeah, just lay down, get horizontal for a bit, and we'll do the same thing too. And have yourself a wonderful rest of the Sabbath. And for those who can join us tonight, we'll see you there. Bye-bye.